Hello everyone, welcome to my tutorial. My name is Miguel, and today I'll be showing you how to set up your system to debug PHP. A debugger allows you to step through your code line by line as they're being executed on your server. This way, you'll be able to see exactly which line of code may be causing unexpected results and fix your code accordingly. The reason I'm making this tutorial is, well, for those of you who already know the nightmare of parsing through var_dump, debugging is a very useful tool that will make development so much more efficient. And having that experience using a debugger is a skill that you can take to the workplace. So I originally wrote this tutorial for a database concepts class for the community college I go to. So I'll be using pretty much the same setup, using Ubuntu 18.04 for my operating system and XAMPP for the Apache and PHP servers. I'll start off by installing XAMPP for those of you who want the full tutorial. Next, I'll be installing Visual Studio Code, which we'll be using to write and debug our code. I'll show you which extensions you want to install and how to configure their settings. Next, we will download XDebug. This is probably the most difficult part of the tutorial, as we'll be using the command line a lot, and there are several steps, so I'll try to make it as easy as I can to follow along. And finally, we'll do a little demonstration to see how to actually use the debugger. There are going to be quite a few steps in this tutorial, so I'll be putting timestamps in the description below. But without further delay, let's get started. Alright, so here we go. I'm just going to start up Firefox, and we'll be going to https://www.apachefriends.org, and I will be installing XAMPP. This will give us our Apache and Maria database, our PHP server. Because I'm using Ubuntu, I'm going to click this link right here, XAMPP for Linux. So when I click that, I get this download. I'm going to click OK to save the file. And I'm going to fast forward until when this download is finished. So I'll be right back. So my download is now complete, so I'm going to navigate to the downloads folder. I'll be using the terminal just because that's the way that Ken's class is set up. So I'm going to cd change directory to downloads, and if I do ls, then we can see that the file that we just installed is right there. So by default, it will not be executable. So in order to make it so that you can execute it, we have to change the permissions of the file. So in order to do that, we do chmod, chmod, and then -u for user. That's yourself, the owner of the file. So -u equals, so I want to be able to read, write, and execute. Now I'm going to type comma. Notice there's no spaces between these commas. G for group equals, I don't know, read, write, execute as well. They can do that. And others equal, or O equals, let's just say that others can just read and they can't do anything else. That's for security reasons. You don't want people to be able to write to your files when you don't want them to. So then you type a space. So now we'll type XAMPP. Now if I type the first few characters, press tab, then it auto completes, and press enter. And now if I do ls space -lah, we get to see more information, and you can see that all the permissions that I've set for this file are right here. I can read, write, execute, the group can read, write, execute, and other users can only read. So now that it's executable, I can run it by doing /XAMPP, type the first few letters, press tab to autocomplete, and press enter. Now actually I'd notice this is going to give me an error, this line that I just did right here, and we'll see that right here. There's been an error. This installer requires root privileges. Please become super user before executing the installer. That essentially just means you need to run this as administrator, kind of like in Windows, but on Linux we have to run it as the root user. And to do that, we just simply prefix it with sudo. So sudo /XAMPP, press tab to autocomplete, and press enter. So it's going to ask you for your password then. So that's your password, your user password, not necessarily the root password. So now it's going to start up correctly this time. And here we go. Set up. Welcome to the XAMPP wizard. I'm going to click next. Keep these the same. Click next. Now take note of this part right here. It says that XAMPP will be installed to OPT LAMP directory. And we'll be using this a lot throughout the tutorial, so that's good to note where this is actually being installed. So I'm going to click next, and next, and next. So this may take a minute, so we'll pause the video and I'll be back when this is finished. Okay, so now that we're back, it looks like it's just wrapping up here. Actually may take a few more minutes, or maybe a minute or two, but I just wanted to mention that I did, while the video was paused, I did make this text a little bit bigger. I apologize for my random selecting. That might have hurt someone's eyes just now, but yeah, so that way maybe it's a little easier to see. But yeah, here we go. It's finished, and I'm actually not going to launch XAMPP because I'm going to do that in the terminal as well. So I'm just going to uncheck that and click finish. Because we can actually verify where it's installed. It should be, if I change directory there, I'm going to cd /opt/lampp. If I list what's in here, then yeah, everything seems to be installed correctly. We have PHP, there's the LAMP shortcut, there's the bin folder with all the binary files. So I can just launch LAMP right here. So I'm going to do /lamp, and yeah, when I do that, actually it tells me how to use it, because you can't just use LAMP, you have to give it an action. So you can start everything, or you can start them one at a time with LAMP start Apache, LAMP start FTP, MySQL, etc. And you can stop it all and stop each one individually as well. So I'm just going to start LAMP start, just start everything up. So, oh, excuse me, /lamp start. And I have to be super easy to do that as well. So sudo /lamp start. And there it goes. Apache is already running, MySQL is running, and FTP is running. And we won't really be using FTP at all, or MySQL either. I know the class is using MySQL, but I would just be using this for Apache right now. So yeah, now that everything is started and working, I'll just put that aside for now and move on to the next step. So next, I'm going to go and download Visual Studio Code. You can find that at visualstudio.com. And this is really cool. It actually already detected that I'm using Linux, so it's giving me the .deb download here, or RPM for Red Hat and Fedora. Also, you can click this down link, and if you do other downloads, you can actually download this for from the zip file and download or install it yourself rather. And there's a Mac and Windows version as well, but for this tutorial I'll just be using the .deb. So click that, takes me here, and because it's a .deb I can just open it with software install. So I just do that and click OK. So when it's done downloading, it's going to automatically open up with our software installer. So I was going to pause, but it looks like it just downloaded like half of it in like 2 seconds. So we'll see what happens. Okay, yeah, I'll pause the video and I'll come back when it's done. Okay, so when it finished downloading, it actually, yeah, it just opened this up automatically. That's this software installer. So it opens this up. It says it's code .dev version information. It has a link here to code.visual studio. That way we know it's the right one. So I can just go ahead and click install here. It's going to ask me for my password. And installing looked like it was fast. Yeah, maybe it's fast. I don't know. This thing is fast and slow. I will just sit here until it's done, because it's really fast, I guess. I think. Okay, there we go. So yeah, it's done. And I can just close out of this now. And if we go down here to show applications, we can, yeah, we actually scroll down here. And there it is, Visual Studio is installed. Oh, and there's the terminal as well. If you guys couldn't find it earlier, I apologize. I realized I have the terminal in my favorites already. Yeah, because it is one of my favorites. So I'm just going to open this up. I'm going to add this to my favorites as well. And just right click it here and add to favorites. So now it's pinned to this taskbar here. But yeah, now that this is open, we can actually move on to the next step. See, that wasn't too bad. That was pretty easy. So in this interface, we're just going to go down here to this extensions button and click that, and it's going to give you a search bar, and what we're going to be looking for is PHP. So I'm going to type PHP in there, and I'm going to go down here to PHP extension pack. Click that. It's the one with felixbecker.php-pack. So I'm going to install this one by clicking right here, this install. It's actually going to install these three all together. It's like a little bundle here, because it includes PHP Debug and IntelliSense. So when that happens, this little message down here in the bottom right corner shows up. It says PHP executable not found. It tells me to install PHP. Now, when we installed XAMPP, when we downloaded and installed that, it came with PHP. But this apparently isn't tracking, so we're going to have to tell it where PHP is installed. So I can go ahead and click Open Settings here, or if this didn't show up for you guys, then you can also go to Settings from File, Preferences, Settings, and this will pop up. I'm just going to close out of this now. Then this will pop up, and I'm just going to click this button here, Open Settings JSON, and it's going to give it to me in this format. So I'm going to make a new line for a setting that I'm going to set. So this actually has IntelliSense as well, so it's not as terrible as it looks. So I'm just going to start with a quotation, and I'm going to type PHP, and look at that, IntelliSense already knows what I'm looking for. It's php.executable path. I can click that, or you can just type this, php.executable path. It's case sensitive if you are typing it. That's a capital P on path. And then close quotation, colon, and then we're going to replace this null with the path to our PHP inside quotations. So I'm going to go back to the terminal real quick to verify where PHP is installed exactly. So I am still in the OPT lamp. If you're not there, you can get back there by doing cd/opt/lamp. So ls to see what's going on here. And there's a PHP folder. That's what I'm looking for. So I'm going to cd into PHP. ls. That is not what I'm looking for. That just has the manual. So I'm going to cd .. to go back. And I think we're actually looking for the bin file, or the bin folder. So I'm going to cd into the bin. So now I'm in opt/lamp/bin, and I'm going to see what's in here, ls, and I'm just going to scroll up to it would be PHP, PPP, there it is, right there. Okay, so yeah, it's in the bin folder. So it's going to be opt lamp bin/php. So I'm going to type that in here. So it's slash, because it's from the root, /opt slash, or rather it's a literal path. So it's the complete path. So opt lamp /bin/php. Now I'm not going to put a slash at the end here because PHP is the actual file, and that's the only setting that we need to set in here. So I'm going to just Control S save, or file save, and we're through with that now. So I can close out of that. So now back to this extension. So I'm going to go back to extensions here. If it's open or if it was closed already, you can just open it back up by clicking there and typing PHP again. So I'm going to go to this PHP debug page. And this is also Felix Becker project. So I'm going to scroll down below this cool little animated demonstration of exactly what we'll be doing later to this little installation portion. So this is going to show us how to install XDebug. These are all those instructions. I'm going to maximize this because we're going to be looking back at these instructions. These are the actual instructions that I use to install it as well. So it says install XDebug. I highly recommend you make a simple test.php file and put PHP info. So pretty much what this is saying is that in order to use XDebug, you need to get the right version of XDebug. And the best way to do that is by going to this link right here, the installation wizard. So I'm going to click that link. And I'm going to open this because it's legit. So it wants me to paste in here my PHP info. Now I can do this the hard way or I can do this the easy way. So I'm going to do this the easy way. If you don't have XAMPP running or LAMP running from before, remember we can do that again. I'm just going to make sure that LAMP is running. So I'm going to do /opt/lamp/lamp. Actually, erase that. I forgot you have to do this sudo. So sudo /opt/lamp/lamp space start. And yep, it's already running. So if it's not already running, then it will run. If it's already running, it will tell you that it's already running. And in a new tab, because it's running, I'm going to go to localhost and press enter. Now, if you guys get an error, like some search error, like you're trying to search localhost with Google or something like that, you can be more explicit by typing http ://localhost/, and that will also take you here. And what we want here is this link up here, PHP info. That's exactly what that website wants from us. It wants us to right click and select all of this information, and right click again and copy it all, and I'll go back to this tab, and I'm going to paste it right into this text box right here at xdebug.org/wizard.php. If for some reason that link did not work, this is the link to that. So I'm going to paste it right into here. That's all that information that I copied from the PHP info. And right here, this button says Analyze My PHP Info Output. So I'm going to click that. And it's going to give me tailored instructions for installing the version that we need. So if you scroll down to instructions, it gives us the link to the XDebug version that we need for our version of PHP. So I'm going to click that to download it, and I'm going to save it. That's going to go straight to my downloads folder. And while that's downloading, we can actually just move on to step 2. Install the prerequisites for compiling PHP extensions. On your Ubuntu system, install them with this command here. apt-get install phpdev. These are 3 different things we're installing, just because they're separated by spaces. So phpdev, autoconf, and automake. Now, if you install PHP Dev, you may run into some issues, and that is because XDebug does not assume that we already have the PHP from XAMPP. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to install AutoConf and AutoMake, and I'm going to do that in a new terminal. And another thing that these instructions don't say is that you also have to run that as the super user as well. So sudo apt install AutoConf space AutoMake. So I'm going to install these two things here. Ask for my password, and it's going to, well, I already have them installed. If you don't already have them installed, it's going to ask you yes or no to install it, just to verify. So you just press Y, press enter. They didn't show up for me because I already have it installed. So the next thing is step 3, unpack the download. So while we were doing step 2, the download for this is already done. So I'm just going to go back to this new terminal. I'm going to cd into my downloads. So because it's a new terminal, if I do pwd, it'll see that I'm in my home folder right now, which I'm not in that other terminal. So if you're not home, then you can just cd space the little tilde, or just cd, and then it'll also take you home. So from home, we can cd into downloads. So if I ls here, we can see we still have XAMPP the installer, and now we also have XDebug 2.7.2.tgz. This is a compressed file, so we're going to unpack this file with tar. So if you look down here to step 3, we're going to unpack it with tar and then those flags. So tar-x for extract, v for verbose, so that we can see all the files that we're extracting, z because it's, I believe it's because it's gzip format, and f because the next thing after f is the name of the file, xdebug, etc., etc. Tap the first view, press tab to autocomplete, and press enter. And so if I ls again, now we have xdebug-2.7.2, the folder or the directory. So step 4 says to cd into that folder. So I'm going to cd into xdebug folder that we just unzipped, and then we're going to run php eyes. Now php eyes is actually going to be in our LAMP OPT, and that's going to be because that is the PHP version that we installed with XAMPP, and that's the PHP version we're going to be using. So if you did apt get install php dev on step 2, if you just run php eyes from php dev, you may get errors because it may be a different version of PHP. So I'm going to explicitly tell it which php eyes I'm going to be using. So I'm going to do sudo /opt/lamp/bin/php eyes, and then press enter. And you see that the version numbers match up now. So at 2018 0731 and 3201 8731, and that's just for my version of PHP. If you're doing this at a different time than me, with a different version of PHP, a different version of XAMPP, then these numbers may be different. But just make sure that these numbers, these last two, match up with these numbers down here from your xdebug.org wizard. So now that that's done, we can run step 6. So I'm going to do /configure, enter, and if for some reason this part is giving you an error, I just realized that I got this configure error, and that is because I did not specify where php config was. And I looked up, see that the path for php config is also an opt lamp bin. So I'm going to rerun configure -- with, I apologize guys, php equals opt lamp bin php config. So I guess it explicitly needs to know where php config is as well, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. So now we can just move on to step 7. So just run make. So that should have come with auto make that we installed earlier. So if I just make, it will make everything for us. And this also might take a minute. So I will be back when this is done. Okay, so now make is finished. It doesn't say, we just ran step 7, it doesn't say to run make test, but it's always a good idea to run make test that everything finished correctly. So I'm going to go ahead and just make test real quick. And it should give you an output that looks similar to this. Yeah, a lot of useful information. So now we can go to step 8. So step 8, CP, that means copy. So essentially what you're doing, what you just did with make, I'm going to ls real quick to show you what's in this folder now. You pretty much compiled XDebug. So now we're going to copy that file that you just created with CP modules / xdebug.so, and we're going to paste it into /opt lamp lib, the library file, /php /extensions /no dash debug. I'm just I typed the first few characters of each of these after each of these slashes, and then I press tab and it auto completes, and I'm going to press enter. And I cannot do that because I'm not the root user and I'm trying to copy something into a folder that belongs to the root, so I have to preface this with sudo. And done. So now on to step 9. Edit the opt lamp etc /php.ini. I'm going to sudo nano and open up this file, opt lamp etc php.ini. So now we're in this file, and I think I'm just edit up in here on the top because there's a lot of lines here. So in here, step 9 says to add this line here, and actually, you know what? What's cool about Ubuntu and this terminal is you can actually copy and paste, and to remove any possible errors, I'm just going to copy this and paste it right in. So I'm going to just do Control O to save it, press enter, and then Control X. So I'm done with that. Now step 10 says to restart the web server. So I'm actually going to go back to this terminal because I had started it on here. I mean, it probably doesn't matter, but I like to stay consistent because I can just press up from here. Since that was the last thing I did, sudo opt lamp start, and I'm going to replace start with reload. There we go. So now that it's reloaded, XDebug is now almost completely installed. So now we're just done with putting XDebug where it needs to be, so we can close out of this website now. And we're going to go back to Visual Studio Code, because all that was just step 1 and actually step 2 as well. That last thing we just did was step 2, because the next thing we need to do is add these lines. xdebug.remote enable equals 1 and xdebug.remote auto start equals 1. And I'm going to include this little tag right there too, just to keep it organized. I'm going to go back to this terminal here that I just recently edited the PHP any file, and just press up to do it again. So sudo nano opt lamp etc /php.ini, press enter, and right underneath this I'm going to, let me this out of the way, get this out of the way, and minimize that real quick so I can see what I'm typing here. XDebug, enter, and this is all case sensitive as well, XDebug .remote enable, this all needs to be lowercase, equals 1, enter XDebug .remote underscore auto start equals 1. Control O to save, enter, Control X to exit, and that's pretty much it. Yeah, step 4 and step 5 just says to verify, but we can verify in the next step that I have for you guys, which is the demonstration. So in order to demonstrate this, I am going to create a web page. So I'm going to cd to/opt/lamp. I'm just going to go here real quick, and I'm going to ls to show you what's in here. Notice that there's a folder called htdocs. This is where all our web pages are going to be. This is where, if you go back here, your local host, all this dashboard here, your PHP My Admin, and all these, they're all stored in your htdocs. htdocs is essentially like the root location of your web server. So whenever you create a folder in htdocs, it will essentially translate that folder after localhost. So I'm going to go back here. Yep. So if I cd from opt-lamp, if I cd into htdocs, and ls in here, you'll see that dashboard is right there, and that's why we have localhost/dashboard. So in order to make a directory, that is mkdir, but I'm gonna have to do sudo because opt-lamp htdocs is a root owned directory. So sudo mkdir sample. I'm just gonna call it sample1. And right now sample belongs to the root user because I had to use the root to create it, but I want to own it so I don't have to type sudo all the time. So I'm gonna sudo chown, and then I'm gonna type my username, Miguel, or whatever username you're using on Linux on your Ubuntu, and then the name of the file that I want to change ownership of. So sample1 / because it's a folder or directory, and then I press enter. So now if I do ls -lah to show everything, we can now look here at sample1, and you see that this folder now belongs to me. So now I can just cd into here sample1 and start making stuff. Or I can actually, I'm going to use Visual Studio Code from now on, because this is where we're going to be writing our code anyways. I'm just going to open that folder up. So I'm going to click open folder. I'm going to click other locations on my computer, and it is OPT, double click OPT, lamp, htdocs, and sample1. I'm just going to select that. I'm not going to double click that, and then I'm going to click OK. So now Visual Studio Code will set up a work area right in my sample1 folder. So I can click and create a new file from this button right here, or I can right click in here, new file, and let's create our index.php or index.html actually, because I'm going to create another actually create a PHP file, sample.php. So in index.html, I'm just going to put a link. So ahref equals sample.php. So I'm going to say my link, save, and now we have a web page on localhost /sample1. So I'm going to go there. There it is, my link. If I click that, and obviously there's nothing there because I didn't write anything in here. So to actually start PHP code, you do $PHP, and then you just start typing your code in here. So like x = 1, y equals 2, z equals null. I don't know. And then you close it. So I'm going to just save that. You can set breakpoints in here, and we can use the debug extension that we installed by clicking this debug button here, or Control-Shift-D by default. So I'm going to go ahead and click that, and this play button here, says that there's no configurations right now, so I'm going to create one here. So if I click that, this pops up, and I'm going to click PHP, and it creates this launch.json for us with all the little attributes. I don't need to change anything in here, and the name of our configuration is listen for XDebug. So I'm going to make sure that I'm on sample.php, and I'm going to set my breakpoint like right here, for example. I'm just going to click there, make sure that that little red dot is there on line 3 where x equals 1. So that's my breakpoint. Now I'm going to click play or start debugging, and if everything that we did before, all of our installation, our XDebug, our terminal commands and all that stuff worked correctly, it should now say at the bottom here, listen for XDebug sample 1. And if we go back to our web page, let's just go back to sample 1 to my link here. Right now it's still just listening because we haven't hit the breakpoint yet. Now if I click my link, it should take us to sample.php, and it took us there, and nothing happened. So do I need to restart the server again? Sudo opt lamp stop. I'm just going to stop it because I know I restarted it before, but maybe I need to completely stop it and then start it back up. So now that it's started up again, I'm going to come back here, and then I'm going to click my link, and there we go. Okay, yeah, so I just needed to restart it all the way again, and when I clicked my link, it takes me to sample.php, and because I was listening for it on the server with XDebug, it hit my breakpoint. And if we go back to the web browser, you'll notice that it didn't actually, it's still loading because it's waiting for us to finish debugging before it actually takes us there. And we can see all the variables that we are instantiating here. And we have little buttons here, and if you hover over them, you can also see the F shortcuts for them, the step over and the step into, everything that you can expect from a debugger. So I can just step over this line, and when it executed that line, you'll see now over here in your variables, x now equals 1. I'm going to step again, now y equals 2. And before I step again, I'll just kind of explore here again a little bit. By default comes with all these super globals like post, request, get, your cookies, and right now they're empty because I'm not using them, but when you guys create your awesome websites, you'll definitely be using these, and it'll be nice just to be able to come in here and be able to see your variables and your values and all that good stuff. So I hope you guys learned something. If you guys ran into any problems, feel free to send me a message or drop a comment. I'll be happy to help you guys out. I am on Discord as well. For those of you who are in Ken's class, you guys know how to get a hold of me through there as well. And yeah. Hey guys, so I just wanted to make one last part to this video and show you guys how you can jump back into debugging after, let's say, you've restarted your computer. So I'm sure some of you are asking, how much of this tutorial do we actually have to repeat just so it can start debugging again? Well, assuming you've followed along with this tutorial up to this point, I'll show you the 3 easy steps to get back into debugging. So first we want to start XAMPP. So I'll do that by doing sudo opt lamp start, and well, I guess it's already running for me, but just make sure that lamp is starting or started, it's running, and we can open up Visual Studio Code. And let's just say that it didn't open up to your last project, or you're working on other projects and you want to get back to one other project. So let's say it's right now it's in the downloads folder. I don't know why you'd be in there, but you can go back to your project by clicking File, Open Folder, and then head back to other locations, Computer, where was it? OPT, LAMP, htdocs, and then click on the folder where your project is, and then click OK. And that will take Visual Studio back to your project that you were working on. And let's make a breakpoint at x equals 1 again, and then click this debug. And if you were following along in the tutorial, you should already have this listen for debug. If not, you're going to have to click this cog again and then select PHP. Since it's already there for me, if I click the cog, it'll just open launch.json. And yeah, so I just verified that we still have that there. Make sure that you're on sample.php when you click debug, when you click this start debugging. And when you do so, it will say listening for XDebug down here. So it's listening, you have XAMPP started. The next thing you need to do is hit this breakpoint somehow. And remember, in order to hit this breakpoint, for me, in order to open up sample.php, I need to click this link, my link here. So I'm going to go ahead and open up Firefox and click that link so that my debugger hits that breakpoint. So I'm going to go to localhost / my website is sample1. Press enter, and there's my link. And it won't hit that breakpoint until that line of code is executed, and that line won't be executed until I click this link, which takes us to sample.php. So I'll go ahead and click that link, and there it is. I've hit my breakpoint again. Super easy. Yeah, all I did was, remember, I started XAMPP, I went back into my project, clicked debug, and then I executed, or I clicked the link, which caused this to hit that breakpoint. And that's all there is to it. And now I can start stepping into it, debug again. And yeah, again, thank you very much for watching my video, and happy coding.